It would be mask. And let me tell you the acronym of mask. M represents maintain your peace. A represent acknowledge your emotions. S represents seek community. And K is saying this too shall pass. For this life is not perfect, but the requirement of living it is.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And as you heard in the teaser, that's my good friend, Herdyne Mercier, and today we're going to talk about grief, but we're not going to talk about grief like in a traditional way that you may have been exposed to grief. We're going through some crazy times right now as a human race. We have never experienced anything like this. Well, most of us have not. But the point I'm trying to get at is that we are facing difficulty. And when we face difficult circumstances, usually we might grieve. We are going to grieve for people that we lost. Individuals, family members, friends, neighbors, colleagues, or people just in our statesmen, people that we know that have passed away. But here's the other crazy part. Many of us may be grieving because we lost our job. Maybe we're grieving because of the strain in our relationship right now. Maybe we're grieving because we don't know if we're going to have a job when we go back in the next whatever time period that is. Maybe we're grieving because we don't know what normal is going to be like. But what will happen, though, is that we will take this grief and we might tuck it away and might say, well, we're going to get over it. But we can't do that. And that might be hindering us from performing to our optimal level. And on today's episode, my friend, Miss Herdyne Mercier, Herdyne calls herself the Chief Grief Crusader, and she is giving us a whole new look on grief. She is redefining grief, and I'm so excited to have her on the episode. She's going to lay out some thoughts with you, give you some ideas of how you can understand your grief and also how to cope and overcome them. Let's go ahead and dive into the episode. Welcome to the show, Herdyne.
Thank you, Donald. I'm so excited. I'm thrilled.
Oh, I'm excited to have you as well.
I am too. Like anytime I have an opportunity to speak truth to grief, oh man, it just wakes me up. It's my coffee in the morning.
Well, there's a lot of benefit to it and there's a lot of truth to it. And I think many of us don't realize it or don't pay attention to it. So I'm excited to tackle this and to dissect it more from the sales side and to see how this can help us. But before we dive into all the fun stuff and talk about how we can overcome our grief that's blocking us from selling, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
I am the Chief Grief Crusader and host of Redefining Grief Podcast with Herdyne Mercier. My job is to create safe spaces so that broken hearts can be seen, heard, and validated. And once you're seen, heard, and validated, guess what happens?
Magic.
You get to be unstuck from your unresolved grief and get to a place of purposeful living. Awesome job. Just hearing it myself.
Well, this is true. This is good. And I spoke about this in the beginning of the episode here, but I feel that some people are probably saying, well, Donald, grief. I mean, come on, I didn't lose anybody, recently. So I don't understand why this is even on a sales podcast. Why don't you define or redefine grief for us to help us understand what that is and how that might be affecting us, no matter if we're a sales rep or entrepreneur or even, a bus driver.
It will be my honor. And this is the definition. Grief is experiencing any kind of loss. Not just the death, moving, financial issues, that feeling that you feel when you had to file for divorce, or that feeling that you feel when you had to file for bankruptcy. I know that feeling. Jameson and I, the love of my life, Dr. Jameson Mercier, my partner in crime, we had to file for bankruptcy. It was a hard time for us in 2007, 2008, when the house market crashed.
Yeah.
We couldn't sell our home. He couldn't find a job, looking for a job as a PhD with a master's degree. He had to end up, for us to, I was the provider, the main provider. And he was delivering newspaper with a master's degree and delivering sushi.
Wow.
and he was a stay-at-home mom. So I grieved that 13 days after having my son. I had to go back to work.
Yeah.
I grieved my very first baby, Azriel. 30 days later, I had to go back to work because no matter how many applications my husband put in, very talented and bright man, smart. I love him. That's the reason I married him. So smart. He could not find a job, but I could. So the roles switched. So we grieved about that process. He grieved as a man just from us experiencing it, that he was supposed to be working. So we had those situations where we had to grieve. Grieve is so much more than death.
So how did that affect him as an individual, you would say, understanding that? Like, did his confidence lack? You said you grieved as well. I mean, how did that affect you all as individuals?
It did have an effect on us to the point it almost cost us our marriage. But the truth of the matter is love won in the end.
Amen.
Love won in the end. And so this is my truth. It affected me so much so that by the time I was done with the process, I created the Wifidence brand. What does that brand represent? That brand represents a woman who forgot to put on her mask. She was serving everyone else. She was serving her mom. She was serving her dad, her siblings, her husband. It was an 8-year process where she did not stop to put on her mask. And had this big party for him, PhD, party up. Because when I do stuff, I do it big.
You go extra.
Radio announcements, party big, 7 days of surprises, got to his graduation. And during the graduation, at the graduation, he had no idea. I had a surprise trip to Jamaica.
Yeah, man.
Yes. We flew out to Jamaica. Nice. Came back, you lovebirds,
Yeah.
Sha-la-la-la stuff, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And we come back, Donald, I look in the mirror and I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And so I thought in order to find myself, then I needed a divorce. So I looked at him and said, babe, I don't think this working out. He's looking shocked. Like, what? You just took me to Jamaica. But I said, babe, I think I need a divorce because I need time to find myself. I lost myself in this process, but it was in his wisdom and saying, let's just seek counsel.
Yeah. And it turns out underlining behind all of this, there seems to be the impetus of that grieving that was holding you back. Because I wanted to put this, you set the stage perfectly now, and we're in this challenging time. We're in the middle of a crisis, a pandemic. We are, no matter where anyone's listening to this, across the country, across the world, we find ourselves, some people grieving. I think in the U.S., forgot how many people lost their job, like close to 2 million, some crazy number of people who are out of work. I spoke to a guy this weekend that I know, but the whole sales team that he was working with, the company, they washed the team. Basically, the company couldn't do anything. So now he's in the situation where he's trying to figure out and how he's going to provide for himself, and how he's going to get back on a horse. And you hear in his voice there's this little bit of optimism, but there's a whole bunch of pain, of worry, of frustration. So how grieving situations like that you feel affecting people, or what are some of those grieving situations that salespeople might be coming across, and how it could be affecting them right now?
I want to start off by saying I empathize. I've been there, but I cannot compare.
Yeah.
One of the things that I preach is you do not compare grief stories, or, sometimes you'll tell a story of this happened to me and the person tries to outbeat you with their story.
Yeah, but then my dog got sick, and then my cousin, my company and my house lost.
As a therapist and as a grief coach, I hear you.
Yeah.
And so I allow you to sit in that situation. So we have never really been taught how to deal with loss. We have been taught be number one. Don't be number second. Make sure you're number one. Go for the CEO position. Go for the big house. Go for the big cars, the Mercedes, the Benz, whatever, you name it. We have been taught as a society that we go for the big names in the title, but we've never been taught just to sit in our emotions. And I'm not looking to blame your parents. I'm not looking to blame your great-great-parents. I'm not looking to blame whoever raised you. But I'm saying, in what I learned in my experience in putting on my mask, is saying, learn to be still. One of my anchors that I teach during my coaching programs, where I teach from grief to purpose, that's the coaching brand that I name my, because I want you to understand, there, even in the grief time, you still have purpose. And so the very first thing is saying, telling the truth about how you feel, that truth anchor.
Yeah.
That truth anchor is going to set you free. That's why I say freedom comes from truth. And so finding that community, there's another anchor that I call the connection anchor. Finding that connection buddy that you can say, man, I'm hurting. I put 15 years in that company and a virus came and took me out. Man, I'm hurting. I didn't go to my kids' basketball games. I didn't attend their events. I was working so hard to become top of the top sales manager. And a virus came and I lost everything. No memories from my kids and no memories of great title from my job. It stinks, doesn't it? It stinks. But we have to sit in that truth.
But how do you do that?
To.
I mean, it just seems as if, like, because salespeople probably say, well, you got to get over it. You got to move on, especially with guys. Some guys are probably thinking, I'm macho, man. I can't worry about that. I got to move on. How do we do that? How do we sit in it? What should I be doing right now to, quote unquote, sit in it and to grieve in that?
One, I want to tell you, there's a myth.
Yeah.
There is a myth that over time heals all wounds. That's not true.
Interesting.
That's not true. Time passes on, but you remain stuck emotionally. And so when I say that, then there's another myth. The myth is, if I keep busy, then it will disappear. It won't. It will manifest itself in other ways. And what I say is, it's like what I call the pacifying behaviors. Those pacifying behaviors are those soothing behaviors, but the baby is still hungry when you give them the pacifier. You're just soothing them.
Yeah.
So you need to feed yourself by actually taking time to heal yourself. Finding that community, finding a grief coach, finding a therapist, finding, for example, me, I have my wisdom circle.
Yeah.
This is the Sales Evangelist show, right?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite scriptures has to do with wisdom. Seek her. She will guide you. She will protect you. And so in seeking wisdom for your situation, that's when the beauty of getting to a place, that final place of restoration, that restoration anchor that I teach, that will get you to a place where you can say, this is a flare-up. This is a grief flare-up. I've experienced this hurt. I've experienced this shame. I've experienced this rejection. I work all my life to get to the top of this company so that I don't feel like the poor kid in the classroom.
Yeah.
And I feel that now. But because you didn't take care of it as a child, for lack of wisdom, you didn't take care of it as a child. Now you have the opportunity as an adult to take care of it and nip it in the bud. So what am I saying, Donald? I am saying that everyone's grief journey is different. Don't compare and don't police anyone's journey. They have their own time frame. They have flare-ups where it comes up, it manifests itself. Right now, a lot of people are experiencing flare-ups in grief.
Mm.
What do I mean? If it's your financial issue that's coming up, if it's the death of a family member and now you're watching the news and the numbers keep climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, you're triggered.
Mm-hmm.
If it's moving that you're afraid of and you're fearful about moving,
Starting a new job, starting a new location.
starting a new job, a new career, all of that. If you have illegal issues, let me tell you this. You may be grieving that there's a side, like a little bit of relief because you can stay in the country a little bit longer because they're not dealing with it right now.
Yeah.
So you see, that grief is that conflicting feeling. It's a balance dance. And I strongly believe, this is my hardcore philosophy that I've learned after putting on my mask, that you can be happy and you can be sad, and it still equals emotional well-being. Because I know what it's like. I'm not running away from it. I'm anchoring down in that sadness. I'm anchoring down in that truth. I'm anchoring down in that heartache. Donald, you hurt my feelings. This is my truth, right? Donald, for example, he did not hurt my feelings for those who are listening. Donald, you hurt my feelings by not being supportive in a time where I needed you.
Ooh.
So do you understand? So instead of telling your friend that truth, you think by not dealing with it, it's going to heal the relationship. Because it's going to manifest itself that now when Donald calls you, when Donald calls Herdyne, I'm not going to pick up the phone. I'm not going to text back. Due to the fact I did not deal with the root issue, that I was in pain.
So with all of this, it sounds like it makes sense to find a grief coach, but what if that person doesn't have that? If I'm say this guy right now, who, let's use him as an example, let's make it up. He lost this job, and now he is, so much money is gone. The first thing that he should do, you're saying, is to embrace it or accept that it's happened, or before he gets to a coach.
The first step is seeking wisdom.
Okay.
My favorite word. Mm-hmm. And seeking wisdom is why I provide so many free resources out of there. On my website, for example, Donald, you can visit herdynemercier.com/free gift. herdynemercier.com/free gift. What's there? A 61 different ways you experience grief and explaining how you can deal with it. Free.
Yeah.
So once you seek new wisdom, there is power in having that key to unlock the door to your healing. So the key is seeking the wisdom. The second step that I can say is another free resource that I totally recommend. Why? Because I'm the host of Redefining Grief Podcast, where I talk about these. I share people's stories. I have you look at grief in a totally different light. So that you can say, I'm not alone. The most fearful thing with grievers is they believe they should grieve alone. And that stems from childhood. When we cry, we're told to go to our rooms. And now what I tell parents and individuals, the most powerful thing in helping develop and build a child who is emotionally strong is not asking them why they're crying. It is asking them, what does your tears represent?
It's interesting.
What does your tears represent? And then I learned this from asking my daughter. So this is why I'm telling you this. I don't want you to make the same mistake. Azriel, why are you crying, Azriel? Why are you crying? And then I'm like, hold on. I tell people every day to cry. It's okay to cry. So why should I not allow my 11-year-old daughter to cry?
Yeah.
And so I switched that by empowering her tears and saying, baby girl, what does your tears represent? And then she can say, Mommy, I'm crying because you hurt me. I was trying to tell you that I didn't want to wash the dishes because I wanted to finish 5 more minutes of my favorite TV show. Then we can talk. I can teach her those negotiation skills from an early age, because this is a sales show, right? This is a sales show. And I want to tell you that sale did not come naturally for me.
Yeah.
I had to go seek wisdom.
Yeah.
And in seeking wisdom, I met you. In seeking wisdom, I met you. So in seeking, and I can give you a perfect example. Mm-hmm. I've had the Wifidence brand for 2 years, and I was wondering, why am I not selling enough shirts? I wear the item. I share the link probably once every 6 months on my Instagram page, Herdyne Mercier, and nothing's happening. My Etsy store at Mercier Wellness is not doing that great.
Yeah.
But it's in taking your course, I realized, idiot, or I shouldn't say, that was wisdom tax that I was paying. I didn't know that I needed to promote. I thought if I just wore it, the shirts would sell themselves. No, I needed to let people know what Wifidence meant. I needed to let people know that Wifidence means I'm standing up and showing self-love. I'm standing up and putting on my mask. I'm standing up in support that I will live out my life purpose. I am not going to hide behind my husband. I am not going to hide behind my kids. I am not going to hide behind my parents. I'm standing up, Wifidence, and who I am, and living out the purpose that God has for me. And what does that mean for me, Donald? Purposeful living for me is helping people get unstuck with their unresolved grief and getting them to a place of restoration. Purposeful living. I do that. Here's another free gift. Guess what, Donald?
What's that?
Come May 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing a mastermind, or I should say masterclass webinar. I will be doing a masterclass webinar where I will be teaching unlocking your purpose by healing your unresolved grief. It's a free webinar. 1 hour of giving you purposeful, packed wisdom information. Unlocking your purpose by healing your unresolved grief. And you can find that free link at Herdyne Mercier /masterclass. Herdyne Mercier /masterclass.
All right. We'll put that in our show notes as well. But it seems like there's a lot of good information there. And I think the biggest part that I'm getting from this is people are going to grieve. You're going to have difficult times. Mm-hmm. You're going to have those challenging circumstances. But the biggest part is that you need to, one, seek wisdom, get insights, get help, instead of saying, well, I'm just going to sit back and this is going to heal itself. No, you need to tackle it. Where if you're not finding that job, get some wisdom. And seek out a therapist, seek out a counselor, seek out even if it's just like a trusted friend or a confidant, somebody that you can talk to let it out, and as opposed to ignoring it. And little by little, just moving forward, it will help you to heal. And sometimes it might be addressing that to someone that has caused you grief, and so you can get past it. But this is very, very insightful. If there's one major piece of advice, one major takeaway you want folks listening to this episode to walk away with, what's that advice?
It would be MASK. And let me tell you the acronym of MASK. M represents maintain your peace. A represent acknowledge your emotions. S represents seek community. And K is saying this too shall pass. For this life is not perfect, but the requirement of living it is.
Love it. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll put that stuff right there in our show notes as well. I like that. And I appreciate you being willing to share this wisdom. Folks are listening to this and they're like, Donald, Herdyne brought some good stuff today. What's the best way for them to go about getting in contact with you?
HerdyneMercier.com.
All right. HerdyneMercier.com. Herdyne, thank you so much for taking the time to come on our show today. And you're active on LinkedIn as well as Instagram as well.
Because of you.
There you go.
I have to say this, Donald. Purposeful living happened for me because I was willing to invest in individuals who are operating in their gifts. I was willing to invest in Patrice Washington as my coach. I was willing to invest in Marissa Grayson as my attorney. I was willing to invest in Candace Davis as my writing coach. Do you see it? I was willing to invest in Donald Kelly as my sales coach. So I was willing to invest in TJ Mercer as my media coach. So when you see me, I looked all put together. Yes, I do. And I look amazing too. But the truth of the matter is I invested in me. Wifidence.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. You got to take that time, invest. It's great stuff. Herdyne, thank you again for taking the time to come on our show today and helping us to grieve. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was my good friend Herdyne Mercier. And if you want to connect with Herdyne, simply go down below, look at the show notes, and comment, but go ahead and connect with her. You can find all of her details there. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. And she also has a masterclass coming up, which you probably would find beneficial. Find all the details below, click on the link, register, and take part in that masterclass. I promise you, you're going to love it. It's going to be, worst case scenario is going to give you some education that can help you or maybe can help someone else in your network, a friend or family member. Again, find all the details down below or go to the show notes for this one, thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1285. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1285. Also, you'll check out below and also see the offer from our good friends over at Crumble. Crumble is an amazing CRM. So maybe you are an entrepreneur or an individual seller working for a team that doesn't have a CRM, or you're using an Excel doc, or you're tracking stuff on paper. Woo-wee. Listen, get rid of all of that stuff and go check out Crumble. CRM, you like that? CRMBLE.com/TSE. Again, CRMBLE.com/TSE. My friends over there are giving you some offers that you can't refuse. I mean, you can start off using the system for free. Again, find all the details below. I bring folks like Crumble up to your knowledge, or I bring people like Herdyne on the podcast because I want to help you. I've been in your shoe and I want to make sure you're succeeding. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to be able to know what to say when you're actually connecting and reaching out to them. I want you to be able to actually close the deal. But most importantly, I want to challenge you to go out each and every single day and do big things. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up in the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.